Welcome to the Afterthoughts podcast. It's a podcast where, Ryan, what did you say on the back of your book? You had a great description of the podcast.
Oh,
we talk about
how did I describe
faith,
it? Where's
family,
the book?
fun, culture.
We sold them all.
All kinds of
sold
stuff.
out.
Unfortunately, we're sold out. But this past weekend, I shared in a message a story of a friend named Cody, who has a built-in radar everywhere he goes to find the least lost and the lonely. Whoever in the room needs a friend, whoever in the room needs to know how much God loves them, Cody has that device of him, and he's here today.
Go Cody!
Kind of like
Cody.
Tony Stark thing.
Is that
in your chest?
When did you get that device implanted into your heart?
Oh man.
06?
Yeah.
2015? What year was it?
That would have been 2013.
2013.
I always had that gift, but definitely did not use it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But
So,
here you are
Yes.
to talk about it today.
Yes.
Talk about
Yeah,
your
man.
life. But
100%.
We'll
first,
get into it.
before we get into serious stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about all the wrong reasons you used it.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
no,
Give us-
get into it. All right, let me just
We will.
Give
us your top five.
We're not even going
You-
to finish with a revival.
We have to start with a few important things.
Okay.
You're a Michigan Wolverine.
Yes.
Congratulations on your national
Yes.
championship.
Thank you.
Yes.
Detroit sports all the way
Yes.
for all sports.
No.
Okay, let's break that down real quick. You are a Lions fan. I know this.
I can't help but love the Lions because of my grandpa.
Well, and they're on the rise.
My grandpa and I used to, it was so funny. When I was a little kid, I was like, this team is pathetic. So my dad's like, why don't you bet him $1 every game? You'll get a nice little allowance. So
That's smart.
every single
So
week.
you hustled your grandpa.
So yeah, one year I went $16.
That's right.
Oh, and 16.
That's right.
And he
Never
got a
won a
trash,
game.
one of those brown paper bags. We got him for Christmas.
Yes.
That was epic.
Yep.
But no, ever since he's passed away, I cannot help but just
Yeah.
root. So
Fair.
this last year, I was crushed because I was fully invested, and I could not believe Dan Campbell.
Yeah, he's
went-
aggressive.
Love him.
You gotta
But
love being aggressive.
I love him, but he's gonna learn from that.
Yep.
So there's a
Then
time and a place.
for basketball, you're a Nuggets fan.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Pistons.
You're a Pistons fan.
05 Pistons, baby.
Yeah, those were good days.
Rasheed
Yeah.
Wallace.
Malice at the Palace.
Should
we go into it?
Watch that live.
Yeah.
I was watching
You
that
did?
live, dude. No, because I have a crazy story about that year specifically.
Okay.
So my
Here, I'm gonna scoot that a
my
little
bad.
closer to
My
you.
brother, my brother, he was a wrestler, so all the state championships were always at the Palace.
Oh, yeah.
So one year, my dad, I don't know how, he's really random in this way, but he's like, yeah, I have connections to the owner of the Palace through so and so and so. I was like, okay. So he's like, so we're gonna go when Brandon goes to state this year. We're gonna go and stay in the owner's suite. And I was like, whoa. So I had unlimited Dippin' Dots. I'm watching Brandon cutting weight and all this stuff, and I was just smashing food. This is the best, dude. You need to keep coming to state. So anyway,
Dippin' Dots.
yeah,
Smashing
Great.
Dippin'
I'm
Dots,
in the
man.
owner's box watching all these wrestlers down below, and I was waiting for Brandon to wrestle, and I saw the schedule for the Detroit Pistons in there, and I looked at it. I was like 12 years old,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I never really have watched the Pistons like this, so I'm just gonna take this. I'm gonna watch every single game. So that year I started watching every single game, and then they did what they
Malice at the
did.
Then they
Palace.
played
And
the
then Malice at the
Pacers.
Palace. Yeah, that was insane.
It's
when
a great
it broke out.
documentary.
Fantastic.
On Netflix.
Yes.
It's really crazy to watch live.
Oh, I bet it
Oh, it was
was.
insane to watch live.
Like,
at
is this
12.
happening right
There
now?
I was alone. I was like, is this?
Yeah.
this
Because
so normal?
they showed Ron Artest
Oh, dude.
going up into
They
the.
did not.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. They
It's,
didn't hold
it's
back.
it's wild, and if you're listening and you have no idea what we're talking about, Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, and a few others going into the stands to fight fans.
Thank you for referring him as Meta World Peace.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
of course.
And name
Getting his name
changes.
right.
But there is something crazy about basketball and sports just in general, because you just assume when you're watching that there's like a force field between the court and the stands.
Right.
And when that force field is broken,
It
you
was
realize
wild.
like, oh no.
It's also crazy to watch now because the NBA is so soft. Like it's just
Yes.
everyone's trying to draw fouls. But when you look back at those days, and like they played hard, but also then they're just fighting each other.
Oh, yeah.
Really epic. But speaking of soft, the Nuggets just eliminated the Lakers.
Oh, they did. I didn't even check the score. 'cause
We're
I
living
didn't
in
have
light
to.
of that. The Lakers, who are always complaining, are gone for the year.
Gone.
We're happy to do
Done.
that for everyone.
no problem.
Avs are working on a closeout of round one right now. So good time in Colorado sports. Good time for the Lions. They're on the rise. National championship. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And just in case our dad is listening, tell us where you went to college for 3 weeks.
I went to Ferris State University.
Shout out to Ferris State.
Ferris.
The
Shout out,
Bulldogs.
dude.
Right.
Shout out to-
Unbelievable that you went
Shout
to
out
Ferris.
to Andrew Wheaton for letting me live on your couch. We had the
Andrew.
best few.
Hope he's
months.
watching.
He's gonna watch.
He's gonna watch.
Yeah,
Andrew's the man.
Andrew is the man. It's actually really funny. I was telling him. I'll get into the backstory, but I ended up at this college for my third college. My mom was like, "You gotta go to college." I'm like, "Dude, I just fine." So like at this point too, I'm like, "Wow, okay, I know." I mean, when you get into something and you don't see the light at the tunnel.
Yeah.
If you don't see yourself graduating in college, spoiler alert, you're not going to graduate.
Oh, without
Dude,
vision,
so I
we
have a
perish.
really- I have a really-
Somebody needs to pause that, go back 30 seconds, and listen again a few
I'm-
times.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Yeah.
If I freeze someone right now, if you don't actually see yourself walking,
Yeah.
just let it go.
And
It's the best
save
decision of
some
my
money in the
life.
process.
Totally. So I'll never forget. I had this thought come over me, and I'm like, "This is just not it. I can't be here. College is not for me." And I called Andrew, and I'm like, he actually needed a calculator for one of his classes, and I was like, "No problem, dude. You can have mine." He's like, "Well, where are you?" I'm like, "I'm at the Timmy Center." He's like,
course.
"Why are you at the Timmy Center?" Because that's like the registration center and all this. I go, "Yeah, I just, I'm done, man." And he goes, "What? Dude, we're like, first, he's like, no, he's like,
week
no, no, no,
four.
no. Yeah, he's like, "What? You couldn't even be like possibly flunking. Like, we haven't even taken like exams or anything." I'm like, "No, but dude, this is just not it.
Yeah,
Like, I
I'm
don't know what I'm
done."
doing yet. I'm done." And he's like,
You can keep
he
my
kinda comes
calculator.
like, "We
It's
exchanged
yours."
this calculator, right?"
A TI 83 plus?
Yeah, yo, totally.
Yes.
Well, just to let you know, that's where math lost me. I'm like, once
Yeah.
we gotta start graphing this, I'm like, come on,
You can play games on your calculator.
dude. I actually want to try it as an
Well,
adult.
unfortunately for
Okay.
you, man, I did all those classes and I used that stuff every day
I was gonna
in
say,
the real
yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, you've,
But
saved,
Cody-
you've helped save a lot of people. With
yeah, dude, it helps me
the
with
aquatic
everything around the
formula.
house and
You
my
may
job.
you
so.
may have skipped out on some school, but you are an avid reader because you read Single Today by Ryan Wekenman in one shot.
What's very interesting.
the whole book.
One night. Thank you.
Dude. Shout out to that book. That book is going to free a lot of people, and I really appreciate you taking the time. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I can tell, and I'm real interested in the process of stuff. So I can't wait to start my book with you.
Let's go.
Because I have the title, but I've been waiting for
Hey.
a creative spark because I got the outline. But yeah, we're gonna have fun with that.
The Chronicles of Cody.
I actually have the title, but I'm not gonna release
Don't
it.
release
say
it.
it.
No, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say it yet,
Well,
but
you
I
hold
sent
on
it
to
to
it.
him. Yeah, I've
But
actually
you read
learned
Single
that
Today.
It's good.
5 stars, 4 stars,
4.5.
3.
4.92.
4.92.
And here's why.
I'll take it. Yeah. Hit me with that .08.
I tried giving this book to 3 people that were happily married, and they go, "Ah." And I was like, dude, the title isn't. It's a great title,
Go.
but it's exclusive. It's not specific.
Cody dropping bombs.
This is
Oh,
a truth.
man.
This is a truth-telling podcast. And
Yeah.
whenever Kayla rates something, she gives it very low marks.
Yes.
Yeah.
She, one of
Yes,
our
yes,
guys on
yes.
staff baked
Will
a
never let
pie
me
for
down.
us out of the
Oh,
goodness
yeah.
of his heart, and she gave it a 7 out of 10.
Oh wow.
It was tough.
Like he stayed
Exclusive,
up all night.
not specific.
But it's true.
That's
Cody-
incredible.
Cody, I noticed you're sponsored by Celsius. Thank you for getting that sponsorship here
Yeah.
for the
Well,
podcast.
yeah,
We're
you're
sponsored by
welcome.
AG1, Chick-fil-A, Costco, a couple
Thank
places.
you, Valero, for coming back to.
And Valero.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the guy
Shout
just
out.
put a sticky note up there. I'll be back in 10. I'm like, okay,
Cool.
cool. So I waited outside.
You did.
I did, but I did meet a guy out there that loves Red Rocks.
Well,
I was like,
That's
dude,
amazing.
he's like, that church. I'm like, that's where I'm going right now. So yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
well, I
No
want to hear.
surprise that you were waiting outside a gas station and then you met a guy. And, yep. Okay.
We're gonna
Yeah,
get
we'll
into your
go-
life
okay,
and a little
okay,
bit of the
okay.
way you live your life. But first,
Dun, dun, dun.
Questions with Kayla.
questions
No,
with
no.
Kayla.
Before we get into questions with Kayla, I do want to say the book. We got to go back to the book real quick. All the people that are in relationships, read the book because it is way more about contentment, finding peace in your circumstances, and living with contentment. And my dad has always taught me my whole life that was like the biggest thing that he instilled in me: contentment, not complacency. So no matter where I've been, I've tried to just live out like this insane level of gratitude.
Yeah.
And I feel like you do the same, and that book will free a lot of people realizing like it's not necessarily a book just for single people. And I wish I would have had it when I was single.
Yeah.
It would have saved me a lot.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Did
you.
you
bro.
did you
I
find
appreciate
we
it.
talked about this on the last episode? Were you kind of blown away by my input into Ryan's life? There's some really huge moments of saying things like, "That's cool, man."
That's cool, man.
I couldn't
the moment
believe
that made the book?
I couldn't believe you weren't mentioned anywhere but the acknowledgments. I did read the acknowledgments.
Yes.
You were in there,
Well,
but I'm surprised you
basically
weren't,
wrote the book.
co-author.
Based
Right.
off what I saw. All right, so everyone's favorite part of this podcast is questions with Kayla.
Oh, hey.
And you actually get to meet Kayla in person, which most
This
people
is
are like,
neat.
"Who is Kayla?" Well,
Mysterious.
they'll never know.
Been
Well,
asking
you
you
know.
for 37 weeks.
That's right.
I only missed one episode, and it was last week.
Oh, you need to listen
Ryan's
to it.
episode.
I know.
Yeah.
Look at
Well, you
everyone.
already read the
air
book.
Just got deflated.
You already read the book, so you're good.
Yeah.
Kayla, bring it on. What do you got for Cody?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Cody,
man.
what is something on your bucket list?
Ooh, nice.
Man, that's a good one. That is a good one. And you only get one, so I would say go back to Germany and Austria with a different perspective because I went there and played basketball there. Yeah, that would be something I would like to do again.
Nice.
I guess if that's what comes to my mind. But there's probably some way more meaningful things that I could have said.
That's
Say,
great.
yeah, go back there.
Euro
Yeah.
trip.
Yep.
Nice. Anybody else have something?
Yeah.
I want to sail all the way around the world
Wow.
somehow.
Whoa.
On a boat.
Like by yourself?
Sailboat.
No, like I don't know. I haven't worked out the details yet. Maybe a big cruise ship. Maybe we do it in style.
Well,
Oh.
cool.
Wow.
What about you, bro?
No, after
Oh,
you.
me? Okay. Probably the orange one from Home Depot. It's a bucket on my list.
Oh, man.
Next question. I got three of them. I got three of them in my garage, actually. And but on my bucket list of things I want to do before I die, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yes, and I think you know that.
I want to fly, not fly it, but fly in a fighter jet.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a
We
good
know
one.
that.
I want to do that so bad.
If we've got someone who can make that
Nice.
happen.
I want to go to the Ryder Cup.
Great.
Dude.
That's
Great
great.
Way better.
Yeah, can I
I
change
win.
mine to that?
So, dude, I have this horrible thing too. I always order first at a restaurant. It's always like the most basic thing, and then it goes around the table.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
I wanted
I
that.
get chicken
Dude.
and waffles.
feel like you just did that?
I did, yeah,
My-
for sure. So I'm gonna take mine back and I'm gonna go with you.
Steph and I double dated with my brother and his wife one time at Olive Garden, which is just a favorite restaurant of me and my brother. And I just panic
You guys are
ordered.
family. You and
I
your
panic
brother.
ordered spaghetti. And everyone was like, "Are you serious of everything on this menu?"
Gosh,
Yeah, I know. And then they all ordered, and I was like, "Why did I?"
man, the poorest in my life is when I was. Yeah, I try to avoid
Tough.
spaghetti now. Spaghetti and ramen, I'm out.
I still love both.
I do. I will do it every once in a while, but it's too.
PTSD.
Yeah, it is exactly. It brings
But also,
PTSD.
a lot of sodium.
Yeah. That's
So
yeah.
much.
Okay, Kayla, next question.
All right, next one. What's a day you wish you could really relive whenever you wanted to?
Ooh,
man.
relive, like change it or just relive it because it was so awesome?
Same.
Can I have two
What?
answers?
Oh,
The latter.
same. Like
It
everything's
was
the
so
same
awesome,
within
so
the
just
day.
relive it. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go first on this one.
I'm saying the Nuggets winning the NBA Finals last
Ooh,
year.
nice.
That night was
That's a
very
good
fun.
one.
And it'd be a little less stressful because you would know.
I would know.
what's going.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna stay on the golf track. Tiger winning the Masters in 2019. I'd like to relive that because we had just had Zeke, so I was like kind of able to watch some of it, but I'd like to be able to go back and know
Yeah.
that I just hold him and watch
Yeah,
the whole
you were
thing.
so not present for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
For the Masters.
Sure you
I was
regretted that.
too present for my son, not present
Exactly.
enough for Tiger.
It's Tiger, bro.
I know. But I saw it happen.
Do you think it'll happen
That was
again?
the first thing Zeke saw, basically. Like, opened his eyes. It's like, Tiger just won the Masters.
Yeah.
You don't know how crazy this
Congrats,
is.
Zeke.
Yeah.
I think that actually could happen again.
Well, I'll put it on your
so amazing.
Doug's
It
prayer
would be
list.
incredible. Add that.
Doug, bucket joke.
Tiger wins
Thumbs
the
down.
Masters,
That would be so incredible.
and I'm there for it.
Do you
And
shoot
then I want to
left-handed?
relive that day.
No.
Yeah.
Love that.
Right, left-handed, shoot right-handed. Or should I say miss?
What do you play
right-handed?
hockey?
Right-handed. All sports
I
right-handed.
play hockey left-handed for no reason. I don't know why.
Well, that's southpaw. just to throw off the goalie.
Oh, okay.
The puck spins the other way.
I throw, for some reason, I throw a frisbee left-handed.
I do
It's
that
the
too.
only thing I do left-handed.
Which we do a lot of because we went to CU Boulder. You know?
Yeah. Play some disc out on the quad.
Out on
Lot
the
of
quad.
frizz.
Nolan
dude.
Field. Yeah.
Did you pick a day, guys?
Let him go.
Man, probably a day where we were in South Africa, either surfing and then a wine tour or whiskey tasting and then bungee jumping and
beep.
all of that.
What?
And all of that in the same day.
So fun.
Or the day one of my kids was born.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the most recent scenario of where it was last week, and we went to Treasure Island.
Yeah.
You guys been there?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know why I lived in Laguna and never went there. That's insane. But I discovered it for the first time, and my daughter and I were just.
Oh,
sitting-
in Laguna? I thought you were talking about the hotel in Vegas.
Oh yeah, no, I go there. No, I'm just kidding. I've been there plenty of times. No, we were sitting there, and
Yeah.
we're walking up. Actually, we spent 6 hours just looking at God's beauty, and it was just insane. But as we're walking up, Lainey goes, "Daddy, can we just sit?" And we just sat down on this path and looked at the Pacific Ocean, and she grabbed me and hugged me and gave me the biggest kiss and said, "This is beautiful." And she's 2.5, and I was just like, I am gonna sit right here.
Cody
Wow.
wins.
And
I want to
just-
relive that day and just be there.
Yeah.
Just as your friend.
So,
Be hanging.
dude, the funny
amazing.
thing is my other daughter was ready for a nap, and they're up the top of the cliff, and I get a call from my wife going, "Hurry up, Tatum needs to take a nap, blah, blah, blah." And I go, "Don't ruin my moment." Hung up on her. So, I'm
Don't take
sorry
this
for
from me.
now.
Nice.
She didn't love that.
Yeah.
That's a
yeah.
great
She
answer.
was
So we
dealing
all
with a crying baby,
That's a
and I
good
was
one.
dealing with
Yeah.
So I said
present to
my
you.
wedding for sure. All right. Kayla, any further questions?
Last one. What fills your heart the most, or like what brings you the most joy, and then also like what breaks your heart the most?
I actually think that's, man, I think that the whole heartbeat of this whole conversation that's about to happen is probably that. What brings me the most joy is knowing that that person is a representation of God, and then it also breaks my heart that they don't know it, if they don't know it. But like just walking around the world, it's crazy because every single person has a story, and I've really learned to look at it that way, and I think it simultaneously just like rips me up and makes me happy all in one. Because even if I see someone that's struggling with a drug addiction on the side of the road outside of my office, I'm just like, man, they were a baby, at one point, and that's someone's and yeah, that's my answer is that.
Well, let's just go straight into your story.
I'm not gonna go after that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your journey to faith. First, give us a little backstory. The Cody Cleaves backstory.
So shout out to my mother and father. They brought me up in a Christian household. They did their due diligence. And to any parent out there that has a kid that falls off the vine or the path, just know that all your seeds planted mean something, and they'll have the Jesus haunt, as you say, and they'll have a place to turn to when they do.
Yeah,
that's great.
I grew up in Sunday school. Honestly, didn't really know what I believed. I kind of just showed up and checked the box because my parents made me go. Andrew Wheaton, another shout out. He was always the only one there. I'm like, if Andrew's here, we can somewhat endure this. So I'd look for him, and then we'd sit in Sunday school together and not pay attention at all. So I'd go through, my whole childhood. I kind of just didn't realize it, but just started living my own thing. High school comes, I'm still having to show up to church because my parents are bringing me there consistently. But at that point, I'm getting into all kinds of different things, the wrong things, and I'm showing up to church, hungover, whatever, just showing up. So this goes on because backstory, I loved to play basketball, and we loved to throw parties. So that kind of plays a part into what I'm doing now with life. But for the longest time, I was living this life, and basketball was opening up doors. Something people don't really talk about, but when you play basketball or you go around, sometimes you get doors that are opened and they're not all the doors that you're supposed to walk through at all. So like I was taking advantage of the fact that basketball was a platform I was supposed to be using for God, and I was essentially just, I was always nice to people. I will say that. I had a lot of friends, and I was always really conscious of people's feelings, so I had thought. But when you do a lot of reflection and healing, I fell into a lot of sexual sin, a ton of sexual sin. I mean, it's just, and for anyone out there that needs to hear that, it takes a lot of time to heal. So if you're single right now, act like you're married, because eventually you might be, you might not be, but you should just act like you're married. It'll save a lot. But yeah, I went through a lot of alcohol, partying, drugs, you name it. I definitely fell into just about every sin you could imagine. And meanwhile, from a worldly perspective, I was still succeeding in basketball, and things are just, going along, and giving the credit to, Cody. And so I was telling you yesterday, I had a choice. I was offered a scholarship to a Christian college or a community college. And in hindsight, it's really funny because I'm like, man, God was trying to get me to go there right then. And real quick. Yeah, so I didn't want to go to the Christian college because they had a rule where you weren't allowed to have girls in the dorms. I'm like, well, how is that going to be a thing? Like, we're going into college, so that, I don't know. I know that sounds silly, but that was like a deal breaker for me.
Sure.
Because I'm like, if I get caught drinking, I'm going to get kicked off the team. So this will last about 2 weeks. Can't have any girls at the dorm. So I'm like, I want to go to Muskegon Community College. And this college that offered me a scholarship won 2 national championships in the 4 years that I would have gone there. So they were like a really good school. But I'm glad I went to Muskegon because that was a whole nother experience. And I loved playing basketball there. My first year, I did well, but I was involved in a lot of bad stuff. A lot of partying, a lot of stuff that just. So the first year goes all right. The second year, I got some offers after my first year, but I wanted to play with my teammates, so I didn't go and transfer on. My second year, very beginning part of the season, we throw this party, and I get completely annihilated. And to the point, I responsibly went to bed, I will say that. I just went to bed, but I woke up a different man because this was when the hangover came out, and my teammates thought it would be really funny to move me while I was sleeping. I don't know because I was blacked out, but from the stories that were told to me, I was dropped down a half a flight of stairs and hurt my neck and had I never really got it diagnosed, but definitely a traumatic brain injury, I think. I was never quite the same. So I was telling Ryan yesterday, I was like, I went and played basketball for the rest of that season, but I just felt so terrible. Like I was just not myself and I was off. So I kind of knew in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is going to end. So after that season, it ended. And that's when my life went down into the pits. I stopped talking to all my friends. I completely just, I dropped everything. I stopped talking to all my friends, stopped going to all these stuff, we always joke around now because I can make light of it. I was wearing like a blue jumpsuit every day for like 9 months because we had like these sweats from Muskegon, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, you need to do something, huh?" Just like sit around my parents' house, like feeling sorry for myself. Smoking cigarettes. Like, I'll be out there smoking a cigarette. Like, why am I smoking a cigarette? I was playing basketball. Like, whatever. I'll just smoke this thing. Life sucks. 9 months of this. And my parents, I mean, thinking about it now, man, being a parent, they had to be just panicking, just freaking out. Their son's in their basement, like, I was just so full of life and then just absolutely wanted to commit suicide. And that was the realest thing ever. I was like, I don't see where I'm going to fit into this world at all. And this went on for almost a year, like I said. So I'm sitting there, and one day I woke up to just do my pathetic routine. I mean, this was like staying up till 4 a.m., playing video games by myself, sleeping until 1, and just waking up so depressed, eating a bowl of cereal, go down, whatever, not doing a thing. And one day I woke up, and it was the weirdest thing because it was like God was like, dude, I got something for you. And note, I've never heard his audible voice, but it was a feeling, and it was just like, you got to get yourself up. Like, I have something for you. I want to show you. Like, whatever. So anyway, I'm talking to my mom and dad, and they tell me, you should go to Ferris State and just go there, whatever. You guys know the story of that, so.
Couple weeks.
I went to Ferris State. Well, first this summer, going into all this, I worked at a golf course. And the guy that owned the golf course was a very mean person, and he would always put me on all these really terrible tasks, and like anything that could be just the crappiest thing to do would be like, oh, give that to Cody. So one day, I actually didn't mind this part. I was edging a bunker. You know, I like doing the landscaping thing, so I was edging a bunker, and this guy whistles at me like a dog, and I'm depressed. Like, keep in mind, I'm like scraping myself to this job. Like, dude, I hate life. $7.32 an hour. I'm like, this is just. My girlfriend's breaking up with me at the time of 5 years, so that's a cherry on top. My first love.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and he whistles at me like a dog. Jeez. And I walk to him with a sense of urgency because I'm like, oh yeah, Tim's here. So I like literally power walked over to him across the fairway, and he goes, boy, when I whistle at you, you run. And I was just like, dude, where do I go to get my last paycheck? Because I'm done with this. I'm quitting right now. And that was the G-rated version of my 19-year-old self. I went nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I flipped out on him. But I took that last check, and I went to the casino, and I won $1,200. But that's an important.
Playing what?
Roulette.
Okay.
I won a new Xbox. So I rode that out for about 3 or 4 weeks because I was like, I got a little bit of cash. But then I had to go get another job. And this is the best part of the story because I go to this call center, and I'm working at this call center. And this is like one of those call centers where you call on the behalf of like the Vietnam Veterans Foundation, the Police Officers Association of America, all this stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, seems like a pretty good cause. And I'm getting a bunch of sales trying to get into it. And one day I'm reading the fine print, and I'm like, whoa, 85% of this goes to the business that I'm working for? This is nuts. So it was a total scam. But Chanel also worked at this job, and we discovered this. So we were working at this call center together. So that's how we originally became friends.
Okay.
And we were best friends long before we ever became romantically involved. Also, something that's probably good advice if I could give that relationship actually worked out. All my other ones did not.
Yeah.
So definitely try to be friends with someone first and see if that's a fit before we start diving into all the other stuff.
Yeah.
That'll go a lot farther. But yeah, so where are we at? Okay, so we're at the call center. That all goes on. I go into Ferris State, living on Andrew's couch. And yeah, that lasted 3 weeks. And then I just dropped everything and dropped out. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. So I'm back in my parents' house. They're like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I know that for a fact. Nothing's going to happen in your basement. The last 11 months have proved that. They're like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to move to California. They're like, dude, you've been wearing a blue jumpsuit for 11 months. You have no money. You're delusional. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. So it was really weird. I ended up talking to an old coach that was a coach of mine, and he was like, do you want to be my assistant coach for varsity basketball? And I was like, sure. So in my mind, I was like, I'll just coach this team for 1 year, take the check, and I'm going to California with the coaching check. So yeah, my best friend David and I, we took that check and we went out to California with that. out in California, living life. Well, first I got to take it back to when I went to Central Michigan for a brief stint too. I got saved in this church. That was the sermon you had the other day was the only other time that I've had the feeling that I had at this particular service. And I went into this church. We were doing a bunch of bad things, and one day we were so depressed that we went into this church, and we just went there. We don't know why. And out of everyone, they called us out in front of a crowd. The sermon was spot on to what I was going through in my life, which is crazy how God does that. But then they called me out of everyone, and I was saved in front of like 500 people, and I was just bawling my eyes out. So that moment was like me getting saved, but I didn't know what to do. So like I had to go back to that moment, because when I went to California, I was still living a life of sin.
Yeah.
But I was saved, if that makes sense to anyone that's gone through a similar process. But yeah, I guess going through California for a couple of years, I'll spare all the details on that, but I ended up going back home again. My grandpa was dying, so I went through that with him. And then I launched myself to Austin, Texas after that, and came down here and basically lived on my sister's couch for a little bit. So, yeah, that's the end of the story.
Well, now you're here. When did your faith spark to where it went from like, I had this moment, but I have no idea what to do with it, to like, this is my new life?
So in my process of being saved, God obviously was coming after me hard, and I was starting to see things for what it was. And I really wish that I would have read the Bible sooner, because I don't know why we avoid this book. It's just, you can't know God on the level that you need to know God if you don't read the Bible. And we need to read the Bible, and it's not a chore. And like, even if you don't, like right now, I'm not reading the Bible every day, and I'm not giving myself a hard time over it, because I know how powerful the Bible is. So I just will go into it when I go into it. But I feel like we fall into this shame trap with the Bible and all this stuff and our disciplines. But the reality is we do need it, and we need to read it in a way that, I mean, you should see me now. My parents would laugh, because I have notebooks and I'm like writing notes and all this stuff. And
Let's go.
I couldn't pass a class to save my life. But yeah. So it's kind of funny how that works with the Bible. But basically, in me reading the Bible, I've developed this passion for why I'm alive. And I was telling Ethan, I was gonna probably not say this, but I remember one day I was in a reflection period, and I was like, I was dealing with so much shame. You have no idea. Like, all this stuff, cheating on my girlfriend, all this sinful, I could never forgive myself. I just couldn't. That's what was burying me, was the fact that I could not forgive myself. And once I finally figured out that forgiveness for yourself is possible, for anyone that needs to hear that, like, forgive yourself, please. Like, God needs you. You need to forgive yourself and get over yourself and forgive. If he can forgive you, you can forgive you. And I don't know why that's the hardest thing to believe. But anyway, I got through that, and I looked at myself one day in the mirror, and I had this horrible feeling. I mean, even going into all this stuff, I don't talk about it very often, because I'm in a way better place and God has redeemed me. But like, I mean, all the weight of everything that I had done, and I realized all these soul ties and all these people that I've hurt by just like self-serving without even meaning to, right? Just falling into hookup culture. And I'm just like, oh, I can't believe that. I know that you gave me this gift, God, and I used it for that. And that was heavy, but I looked at myself in the mirror. I called myself a D-bag. I did. But I was like, you know what, man? From this moment forward, I will never miss a person. I will never, if I see anyone, they're a person. So it was something between God and me that I was like, you got me. Like, I know why you created me. I know why I'm alive. I know my calling, and so yeah, that was an insane moment for me. Because like I said, I was always real conscious of people's feelings, and that wasn't my sin per se, but you know, when you're sleeping around and doing this, you're really hurting not only yourself, but the people that you're doing that to. So going through that kind of forgiveness. On the other side of that, though, I used that story for, I mean, it's crazy how God does that. God will take a bad story and turn it for good. Yeah. And the reason that I have been so effective in that part of my life now is because I actually understand on the level of Paul what grace is there for. It's not to be abused, okay, but it is unlimited. And like when we screw up, we can't feel sorry for ourselves that we're in sin or whatever. We got to just simply repent and go and do what we need to do. Your book is powerful in a lot of those moments because, like, if you fell into the trap that Satan would have wanted you to fall into, there's eternities that would have gone differently. And the way that I look at evangelism, I mean, I'm so honored that you guys asked me to come and do this because people need to hear this, and it's the most important part of why we're all alive. And it's weird how it's something that gets completely avoided. I was laughing one day because someone told me, they're like, dude, it's just awkward. I don't like being that kind of person. I was like, well, dude, it's always awkward. The only time it's not if someone's like, whoa, praise Jesus, yeah. He's my savior too. But every other time it's pretty awkward. Yeah. And I could go on for a really long time about rejection, man. I mean, yeah, it's really funny how like people see, real quick too, on spiritual gifts. We don't talk about spiritual gifts enough, and we all have them. You know, I'll talk to people all the time, like, you just got to figure out your gift and go and execute it. And they're like, I just don't have it. I'm like, well, then ask God to show you, because you do have it, and that's a bunch of BS. That's like the thing that you say about potential. It's like, no, dude, you do have a spiritual gift. And I want to do a shout out to the prayer warriors, because in the church, it's one of the, if not the most effective thing. It's like the offensive line. Okay? The offensive line, you can't do anything without an offensive line. Ask Tom Brady. Okay?
Totally.
Tom Brady would not be Tom Brady if he didn't have the offensive line that he did. And people...
That's really good.
And my gift is evangelism. So I look at that as wide receiver, quarterback. People are like, that's cool. He can talk to people, this and that. It's like, dude, I would be nothing if there wasn't people praying. Wow. Shout out to my mom and her 9,000 people that she literally has praying for me every day. I can feel that. Shout out to Andrew Wheaton, who's also a prayer warrior and like my daily diary. Yeah. We talk all day about everything. And shout out to my wife, who, as a wife, has given me wings, and she hasn't been an anchor. I think that's really important for women to hear. You know, we struggle as men with pride in that, and women will tend to struggle with control when it comes to marriage. And a man can really only go as far, in the marriage space, you can only go as far as your wife will let you. And Chanel, thank you so much for believing in me when I was nothing, and always supporting me in every crazy idea. And I'm glad that you did. I mean, I'm sure, hopefully now you are too, you know. But yeah, I mean, there's been some crazy things, man. We started this business right when Lainey was born too, so we'll get into all that. But yeah,
Close the loop on how you two met. Real quick, you met at the call center, but then how did you end up together?
We were friends for like 5 years.
And how did you work that to turn that into her being interested in you?
Man, here's the thing. I was so broken that I didn't want a relationship. I was like, I'm single forever. Like, I can really relate to single, because like I love being single at heart. I really do. I love having my availability. My best ability is my availability, you know. And I could do whatever I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I was out living my life, going crazy like that. But she was always there as a friend, and we were just talking. And she would come and visit me, and we would hang out in California. I've lived in California, New Mexico. I came to Texas, and we were still talking back and forth. She's like, I got to get out of Michigan. I'm like, well, why don't you just come down to Texas then? I don't know. So she came down. She was living in a separate house, and we worked together randomly. But one day, I started this solar job, and it was my first day on the job, and I went to this Wendy's up in Georgetown before my appointment, and I was eating, but then I went to go to the bathroom, came back, and my keys were gone, and I'm like freaking out because I have to go to this appointment, my very first one for this job, and I can't find the keys, so I'm there for hours, and I'm like going crazy. They're thinking I'm like a nut. I'm like, dude, I know the keys were here. Like, I was just here. So anyway, I call her because I don't know what else to do. And she's like, well, I'm in San Antonio right now, but I'll just drive up there and just be there for you. I'm like, that's insane. I would never do that. Wow. Okay.
That's like 2 hours.
Yeah, bro. Wow. That's like 3. And she didn't have air conditioning in her car at the time. So yeah, she drove up there, and I don't know if you've ever been in a fling type relationship where you're trying to push someone away, but it's really the right person. And this was just kind of these things where it's coming together, but I was fighting it. And so long story short, I this is insane. I had to Uber to this appointment. So I obviously did not get the solar sale. They're not going to buy a solar system from a guy that Ubered to his appointment. Okay, so the guy, after he tells me no, this guy is like,
so
he's like, bro, do you need me to take you to wherever you're going?
After
I'm like,
he said no?
yeah. I'm like,
Are you doing okay, man?
oh yeah. He's like, bro.
All right, fine, I'll buy.
Dude.
Dude, you guys donate some money.
Oh
I don't need
gosh.
the solar panels. But
I don't think an hour is going to be enough for all this. It's just too good. But anyway, so I'm like, oh my gosh, obviously that's a demoralizing drive. He's like, well, where are you going? I'm like, the Wendy's up there. He's like, well, what happened? I told him I lost my keys. He's like, okay, this guy is on drugs or something. But anyway, drops me off, and I'm sitting at the Wendy's, and all of a sudden, like, I called her, and she's on her way, and I'm just still sitting there, and this old lady comes in, and she goes, I have someone's keys. And I'm like, dude, okay. So I'm sitting there, and now Chanel's about to be there, and when she gets there, this is the weirdest story, but I had this feeling from God, like, that's your wife. If you want to follow Jesus, that's your wife. And right now is the time to ask her. And I'm like, what? What? Dude, this is the most bizarre day ever. Like, no. And I'm like, no, dude, no. So, yeah, I'm like, what? Okay. What? And yeah, so she shows up, and I go, this is the weirdest thing, but will you be my girlfriend? We finally made it official at this Wendy's.
nice.
Yeah.
So now every year on our anniversary, we eat Wendy's.
So romantic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did the old lady just accidentally take your keys?
She did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
I know that story seems seriously so weird it can't be real, but ask Chanel.
Yeah, I
She'll tell
believe
you.
you.
Yeah.
Well, you're married now, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you remember her response?
Chanel's?
Yeah. Like, what did she say? Was she shocked?
She was definitely happy. Like, yeah, she was shocked, and it was one of those scenarios where it was like, it didn't have to be this whole, whatever.
Yeah.
It was just real, and it was the time because I felt it from the Holy Spirit, and it was one of those things, and she knows I always had love for her. I was literally so broken that I was just going, I can't. But I'm so grateful that I listened to God on that, because, wow, was that weird for one? Yes. But the fruit behind that has been truly life-changing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how we first started dating. And then we were dating for a few years, and then got engaged, got married up in Colorado.
Jason Hedger officiated
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out
Really?
to Hedger.
Yeah, dude.
That's
Tall
awesome.
drink of water, that Jason Hedger.
Dude.
He's the best.
Yeah,
Been
so
struck
it was
by lightning
it was
twice.
me, him, a photographer, and our 2 dogs were our witness. So in the state of Colorado, you can legally get married, and your dogs can use their paw prints.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, that's what I did.
As your witnesses.
They were my witness.
So
I'll
the
show
paw
you-
prints on the.
Yes, on the certificate.
Of course, that's a Colorado
Of course.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
dogs were running around in the mountains, while we were having this epic ceremony.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny too, what's really funny too is
They didn't understand the ceremony.
yeah, they didn't really quite grasp it.
They weren't
guys.
into
So, like Lucy gets on the other side of the fence. We're on this cliff. I'm like, dude, if we lose our dog, like literally off the cliff, this is gonna be a really weird story and traumatic. But I was like, Lucy, come on, freaking out. This is gonna fall off the mountain. But no. So on Saturday, we're supposed to get married on Saturday, but there was a hailstorm in the mountains, so we had to move it to Monday. So she came up the mountain with the photographer, and I came up with my dogs. And I just remember going up this mountain like, I can't believe I'm going to get married. Like, who would have thought? This is insane. Like, this is just insane. So I get to the top of this mountain. We go and get married on a Monday. By the time that we finished the ceremony and everything, it was epic. The sky, I mean, it was seriously epic. But anyway, we come down the mountain. This part's pretty funny. We went to go grab like a really nice dinner to celebrate our marriage, but it's Monday night, like late. So there's only McDonald's open.
Nice.
So it's the best McDonald's I've ever had.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I ordered everything.
You became official at Wendy's. You
Yeah.
had your wedding.
That's
dinner
what I'm
at
saying. I'm like,
McDonald's.
guys, we're not a fast food couple, I promise. But this is the weirdest. Yeah.
Because it kind of seems like you are. Though.
No, we really don't eat fast food. Disclaimer:
That's awesome.
We don't eat fast food.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
yeah.
Shifting gears. So you have this moment where you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I'm not going to miss people anymore. I'm going to live differently now. And you have done that. You've never met a stranger. It
No.
seems like everyone you talk to, you find a way to befriend them. You brought a lady named Carol to church this past week that you met because you knocked on her door about her roof.
Mm-hmm.
So you take it into your workplace, you take it into your life. But before we get to the cool part of that, you mentioned rejection earlier. I want
That
you to
is a
talk a
cool
little bit
part.
about that because so many people hear the story in a sermon that's like, well, Cody can invite this guy from basketball, or he brought this lady he met.
Yeah.
This dude's betting 1,000.
Yeah, he bets 1,000, but you don't.
No.
You knock on doors all day long.
Yeah.
Not for work. You
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that for work. Yeah.
No, the weirdest thing is I was telling him, I was like, I don't know how on earth I became a door knocker, but that's just how God works. He'll just have you do things that you just never would have thought. So I've been knocking on doors for 14 years, and I've learned a lot. One thing that I've learned is you have to learn to just go through things because systematically, like, it'll work out. So if I'm talking about sales in general, there was an analogy that one of my mentors told me once. He was like, you have a jar full of marbles and they're yellow and red, okay? But there's only 15 reds in there and there's 400 yellows.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this. You got to get through the yellows to get to the red. And rejection is a beautiful thing if you can learn to humble yourself. So what I try to do as a business practice and in life is put myself into extremely uncomfortable situations as much as possible. This podcast right now is actually terrifying to me, believe it or not. As much as I can talk to anyone, I don't like the spotlight. Never vouch to never be in it again. I don't have social media. I've been off the grid for a decade. I suggest that for every human being living. I really do. Like, just delete everything, dude. Like, when you don't have social media, you are forced to focus on other people.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, I was like, I don't even know what to do because I don't have social media. So I would just be like, what am I supposed to do? And and even starting businesses with no social media and all that stuff was really interesting because people are like, you can't do that. I'm like, you can, because God designed us to go and connect. So you can start to feel yourself, when you come across these things, and you never want to focus on yourself or pride in anything, because pride is the worst. It's the origin of sin. And I've dealt with pride in my past, so I try to stay in a humble state. And there's nothing more humbling than like going through on a sales heater and then going to try out and knocking on doors the next day and just getting kicked in the nuts. So I'm like, this is cool. I'm back to square one. I like to come out of, and I do the same thing with evangelizing. Like, you get those people that are right on the verge. So many people have planted seeds in their lives, and then God tosses you a backside alley-oop and you get to slam it. You don't, but he lets you be a part of his story, okay? There's these other people that you are the first seed that's planted, okay? So, like, you got to look at it like lead generation. I look at myself like I'm a lead generator for God. God is the closer.
Oof.
Okay? As a lead generator, you can't close. You can't. You're not the closer. So when you get a lead, in order for it to be a good lead in business, I'll talk business first, you obviously want to get their phone number, their email, their address, all the things that you would need to make it a qualified appointment. I've also never met someone that I've interacted with that I don't ask for their phone number, because how am I supposed to pour into these people if I can't communicate with them? So for every time that I asked for a phone number, for a while, people that would walk around me would go, how many phone numbers are you going to get? I'm like, well, the whole point of this is to connect, so I definitely need to figure out how to call them, and I don't have social media. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I like to put it in a way where, like, you guys have created such a, I mean, Red Rocks has changed my life. I could go in for days about that, but I tell you guys often, I try to, because I live and operate in a state of gratitude with this. But when Red Rocks came into my life, the church before that, we were helping a lady, and I'll spare you this really long story, but I went to go to this church that I was tithing at, and they asked me if she was a member of the church. And I was pissed, because I was like, I'm a member of your church, and I tithe at this church, and I'm run dry on my resources to help this lady, and I'm coming to you, a very wealthy church, and they just completely, I was telling him, I was like, can you send all the tithes back so we can help this lady out, back pay that? But no, coming here, you guys have created this. You can't fake sincerity, okay? My dad told me that when I was young. Sincerity is not something that you can fake, and anyone that has common sense can see right through it. And you three, as the leaders of our church, have created, God has created through you a space that I can confidently know that people aren't going to get hurt by the leadership of this team, and that I know that the money's being stewarded well, and I know your DNA, and this is what I've been looking for the whole time I had that conversation with myself in the mirror. So now I'm going, cool, I have to get people into this, okay, because it's changing my life. So now I just simply put people on to what you three are doing, what God's doing through this whole body. And I just let God be God, because once you get them to that space, the rest should be, and I can tell you story after story about just situations that feel like, oh, what's going on here? And like, God will just remind me, like, you got them to where they need to be. Like, now I'm God, so yeah.
What is it that gives you the boldness when you meet somebody, whether it's for a roofing job or it's playing basketball or whatever? Like, what is that within you that just, like, it seems like you can't help it, but it's not out of a place of like, I have to do this, It doesn't feel like you have obligation.
It's not an obligation, but like, there's a few verses that I want to share that we need as a church to take extremely seriously. Because I don't feel obligated from the standpoint of it's a chore. I've learned to love it. I'm cheerful in it. But like, I actually drove, when I was driving Carol home the other day, there was this lady, Joni Briggins. I didn't get a chance to share the gospel with her. I had an appointment with her, and she was in stage 4 cancer, and I was supposed to bring her a pizza, and I didn't. And I drove past her house the other day, and her house was clearly like condemned, and she had died. And I just, like, it has been like wrecking me, because I'm like, I was in her path. I was supposed to talk to her, and I didn't. So there's like these things that, and you can't, I don't beat my, like, that's not me either. But I do feel like obligated is a weird word, because like, in a sense, isn't that the whole reason we're alive? We're supposed to share the gospel. That's what frees everyone. That's God's story, and that's exactly why we're alive. So the boldness, though, it comes from a place, let me find it. Romans 1:16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to anyone who believes, for the Jew first and also to the Greek. As Christians, we should never be ashamed of sharing the gospel. It may not be popular or well received, but it has the power to change lives for their eternity. We shouldn't let fear or social pressure or silence us from proclaiming the truth of the gospel. Why? Because it's only through the gospel that a person can be saved. It's not just for a specific group of people, but for everyone who believes. We must have a bold and unashamed faith in sharing the gospel to those around us. Another one that really stuck out to me that has actually been something that kind of clicked when I was struggling with sin, and this wasn't even that long ago. I was just like beating myself up because I can't get it right. None of us can. And I read Peter randomly, and it was the most simple verse that we've all heard so many times. Love covers a multitude of sins. What does that mean to you guys? Because to me, I looked at that like, man, if I just focus on love, it'll cover all the BS. Wow. Like, if I'm struggling with addiction or I'm struggling with whatever, if I just focus on love, all that stuff's going to start chipping away, and God just needs me to love people. And I don't know how you can love people, and this is an analogy that hurts, but if a stranger was running into a bonfire pit, there's no way you'd let them do that, let alone your best friend or your neighbor or your friend or whatever, and when you see people on the wrong path, it should bother you in a Christian way where you're not judging them, you're not, coming from a place of condemnation. I don't even have that in me because of my story. I'm like, I can't judge people if I've been there. So like the other side of the coin makes you so effective on this side of the coin. I think that's why Paul was so effective. Mm-hmm. He was literally murdering Christians. So like when he understood the gospel, he understood grace in that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think we really got to look at it from a standpoint of like, dude, this is not, like you said in that message, this is not a game, and we don't have time, and I don't want many Joni Brighams in my life, and from the standpoint of I didn't get a chance to share. I don't know what her eternity looks like, but I pray that she's okay. And yeah, I didn't mean to take it as deep as it is, but evangelizing is the whole reason that we're alive.
So you, on a Wednesday, a normal Wednesday, there's eternal significance to that Wednesday to you.
Every day I wake up, and it's so weird how it's through door knocking for roofing or going to appointments or going to installs or whatever. But for one, everyone working in the marketplace, you got to realize something. People's walls are down. We're not a pastor, so like you can be way more effective when you go, my pastors are awesome, man. I just get to like point, and say all this, but I'm just like the random guy that God's using in disguise to just get them to where they need to go. But like if I were, to come at it a little bit differently, people are like, oh, pastor, whatever. Yeah. But, oh gosh, this guy's, he wants me to come to his church. He wants my money. Malachi 3:10. I will talk to you about tithing being a huge part of evangelism too, but basically every single day that I wake up, I'm open to being used. And the Carol story is wild because I was going to this referral up in Killeen. I got a phone call saying, hey, some guy referred me to you. Can you come out and give me a roof? So I'm like, well, this is a layup. Yeah, I'll drive up there. It's a done deal. Well, no, it's not. That guy kicked me in the balls. Literally. No, I'm just kidding.
You should get a cup.
And he went with another company on the spot. So I was like, oh, wow. So you just invited me up 2 hours, told me that you're going to give me a roof, and then went with another company while I'm here. I'm pissed.
Thanks for the invite.
So I'm super pissed. I obviously work on full commission. Mm-hmm. So I'm walking down this street, and I'm like, I'm going to go get a sale because I'm up here, and I'm pissed. I'm getting rejected. And I come up to this driveway, and it's like way up there. And I'm going, no, that's not it. I don't feel like walking up that. And another Wendy's moment. God's like, you have to. I'm like, dude, why? Okay, so I go up there, knock this lady's door. I could have bawled my eyes out right when the door opened. I mean, everything that you could just feel she was going through hit me all at once. She had a neck brace on. She was hunched over. She was really, really, really in a bad state. And I recently had just read a piece in Scripture about widows, and for some reason it was very, I obviously read that Scripture right before this happened. This is why we have to read the Bible. Because God will talk to you through that, and then something will come up, and then you have a reference point that you can actually go to. Because I was just reading about widows, and I probably wouldn't have had the level of significance if I hadn't just read that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I helped this lady. She said I could do an inspection, this and that. The irony in the business side of this lady who you would never judge a book by its cover, but she had a rental property around the corner. So I ended up getting. God blessed me with 2 roofs. The one that the guy, I'm like, sure, of course, Carol had a rental property for her. Like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, we did both of those roofs, but that's the insignificant part of this story. Her and I became friends, and we loved to talk. And I would go up there and stop in, and stop in when I can and when I was working, and we became really good friends. And I'll check in on her from time to time, but like recently, real quick, so in California last Wednesday, I realized something. I put all my kids to bed. My mom was there to babysit, so I was going to go out and have some fun. And I was like, I'm just going to go drive around, whatever, enjoy my freedom while I have it. And I had this thought, I need to call Carol. And I'm like, what? I'm in California. It's 12 o'clock here, so it's 2 o'clock there. And I hadn't talked to her for a month.
2 in the morning.
2 in the morning, sorry. 2 in the morning here. I hadn't talked to her in a month. And when I called her, I said, hey, Carol, how are you doing? And she started bawling her eyes out. She goes, not good, Cody. And I don't really appreciate you abandoning me and all this stuff. And, I thought you were different, but, yep, you're just one of those people that promises the world and doesn't deliver. And I was like, I'm not giving you any excuses. Like, I have 2 little kids under the age of 2. It's storm season. We're starting a business. We have all these people we've been hiring. Like, from my standpoint, what I had thought had been justified reasons, but God just shut me up. I started crying, and then I just word vomited my testimony to her, and I just told her what was up. And I go, look, I'm really sorry. I'll never do that to you again. I can't imagine how that must felt, truly. You're a dear friend of mine, and I don't think you need to be blood related to be in someone's family, and you need a family. I know that I was put in your path for that reason. So this weekend when I get back from California, I'm going to drive up there, I'm going to come grab you, and you're going to celebrate my daughter's first birthday, and we're going to go to church. And I'm going to have people pray for your healing because you're in so much pain. And yeah, it was the best weekend of my life. But yeah, I mean, what this church just did for Carol, I mean, I can't believe that was your message, dude. But yeah, that made, I mean, I still have a headache from crying all week, but she came down. She was up all night on Saturday because she was in so much pain.
Yeah.
She showed up, though, and she came into church, and I think she really loved it. I know that. She said it 7 times, how much she loved Ethan. But she said something really funny. She goes, man, those pastors, she goes, I can't believe those guys are pastors. and then she goes, who was the guy that prayed for me? I go, that was the other pastor. And she goes, really? And I just started cracking up because I was like, really? And his prayer was beautiful, and I was bawling my eyes out. And we really need to rally around this woman and pray for healing and take that seriously. But yeah, we can close this loop. I love you, Carol. But yeah, that was a moment that you can turn something into a business transaction, or you can listen. You know, God was making it very clear that I had to do something. And there's a level of sacrifice there that, all of us are very good at just being like, yep, I'll pray for you. Yep, I can give you a 20-minute phone call. But like, this is the first time in my life that it's gone to the level that it went where, it's like, I'm getting in the truck. We're going to do a 4-hour round trip. You're going to come in my house. And there's a scripture too about not grumbling when you're hosting people and being that way. Oof. And I've been on way too many couches on the other side of that coin to know how gracious that is for people to be welcoming. And I've been in houses that are not welcoming. So yeah, that's just something my wife's very, very good at making people feel comfortable and loving on them. And her gift is like serving and, just because you don't have to have the gift of evangelism to evangelize. Like my father-in-law, he'll just help anyone with any problem with his hands. And I always look at that and I fight the feeling of, man, that's so cool. I can't do that. I'm so like, yeah. But I just feel like if we don't look to the right or the left and you just double down on what you got, you could be so effective. Because we all fall into that. I mean, people think like, oh, yeah, he can talk to any, but I'm like, I can't build someone an entertainment center with 2 tools. But like, yeah, I don't know. People have different gifts and you have to find it. And it's not just all, the gift of gab. Like, in fact, that's actually kind of lame.
I feel like everyone, like spiritual gifts unique to everyone in the way that God uses us, but beneath that there's a God-given call in all of us to care about people.
Yeah.
And that's what I see in you. It's funny, I was thinking about last week, I didn't know what to preach about, and I texted Corey. I know you're a big Corey fan.
I am a big Corey fan.
And I was like,
Shout
dude,
out
do you
to
have any
Corey.
ideas for a message, anything like that you've been thinking about? And he texted me just a scripture from Luke 7, and it's a story where he witnesses this mom who's just lost her son, and she was a widow. And there's the funeral procession happening, and this caught me in the translation he sent me. It says, when Jesus saw her, his heart broke. Oof. And then he goes, of course, and crashes the funeral and races the kid, right? But that compassion, like that care that Jesus had for people, where it wasn't like just walking by like, oh, that's a bummer for them. Like his heart broke for this person. I feel like that is the call of all of us
for sure,
as Christians, is to see people. And what adds up to that in your story is you were that guy that was broken. You were the guy on couches. You know that part of your story that leads you to not judge another person and know they've got a battle they're fighting just like I had. But then that has shifted now into the way that you walk into a room and you have the gift of gab. That's awesome. Not everybody does, but what we can all seek is the heart of Jesus, to have compassion and let our hearts break. And that's what I admire most about you.
Man.
So,
I got goosebumps.
Thank you. And it's Corey gets the credit because he sent me that. But I see that compassion in you. And I think ultimately if I could sum up like that whole sermon in this past week of our conversations and stuff, the hope is that we will care about people enough like you do, and know that like it's not a game. And people are going into darkness and all these horrible paths that the enemy has them on, all of the destruction that's happening in so many lives around us, to care about people enough to realize they're not insignificant. And I may not know exactly what to say, but I'm here for a reason. I'm going to just invite you to family.
And you can always pray. It may not be the time to talk to someone, but you just gotta. If you see someone, you just gotta shout out to God. Just say, "Hey, I know you know what they need," but you gotta specifically look and think about that. It only takes a second. I'm trying to practice that because it's not something that comes as natural. But yeah, I mean, our office is right next door to the soup kitchen off of Cesar Chavez, and my business partner called me yesterday, and 5 people passed away in one day. He was like, it was just the most ridiculous thing. There was body bags and like, so I mean, this city too, I mean, you can see it all over. You can't take that lightly, and we really don't have a whole lot of time. Jesus is coming back, and we want to tell as many people that. But I definitely think that as far as that compassion goes, like we really need to bring back the bracelets of what would Jesus do. And I'm serious, because like if you really break it down, if you just ask yourself that before everything, it's like, what would Jesus do right now? Yeah, he probably wouldn't smoke that joint, or he probably wouldn't do. And it's not supposed to be like this whole, you know what I mean? There's just like simple things that it can just. What would Jesus do in this situation? He would look at the person. He would stop what he's doing. He was known to just look at people. I try to really stay in that posture too. If someone's on the street or someone's whatever, I don't just like whatever. I try to actually look at them and, try to do what our Savior did and just follow the fact that he did that. But yeah, it's crazy. The life of evangelizing full time is it's actually really, really fun once you participate.
Not boring.
It's not boring, and that's the thing too. Like people think that faith is something that grows like a snowball. Like you first have something that God comes through with you on, okay, and then you're like, oh man, that was cool, he did that, and then like you're just building this snowman out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden you can't help it because you're cheerfully just like, this is sweet watching God do all this stuff. Like I just get to be a character in his movie. I'm not in any way doing any of this stuff other than just being a character in the movie. And a lot of times I just feel like God, I'm just watching him just do these incredible things. It's like almost like an out of body experience a lot of times.
So beautiful.
Awesome.
Man.
Well, you're having fun doing it, and you inspire me. So thank you for
Thanks,
what
man.
you do. Thanks for coming on and sharing
bro.
your story and all the highs and lows and everything
So
that's
good.
done in
We got to
your
go
life.
down the rejection.
What's that?
We got to go down the rejection path.
Okay, give us 2
Rejection
minutes on
story.
rejection, and we got to wrap up.
Okay, you want the most? Well, let's go around the table for rejection stories.
I have several. The most recent one, somebody came over to work on something in my house, fix an appliance, and was like, hey man, I'm actually a pastor. Would love for you to come to Red Rocks, and just never heard from him.
Just a pure God.
But I tried.
Yeah. I've got a neighbor I try to invite every time I see him or can, and haven't showed up yet.
The girl who cuts my hair, Lily. She's the best. I've been inviting her for a while.
Yes.
Let's go.
She hasn't come yet, but soon.
Pray for Lily.
Mhm.
My most recent one was I was having a few margaritas with my business partner and a few people, and responsibly, and we were just hanging out, and they asked me, or well, his girlfriend, who's an atheist, asked me about my faith, and I was like, no, not now. Why? But it says in Scripture, when someone asks, you have to step in boldly right then and there. So I did. And I go through this huge spiel, passionate spiel. And she goes, that's cute. And I was like, I guess it is kind of cute. But yeah. And then she's like, well, that's cool that you have that, but he's not real. So I pray for Bailey sincerely. It's and that's another thing too. A rejection story can be that way and it can be harsh, but really what I've learned to do too is in those moments, I immediately just go, you asked, I told you, sorry. And I just need to continue to pray for her, you know?
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Builds boldness in you to just keep after it.
Yeah. Sorry to be so serious.
Well, we've laughed as well.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that God was going to use me on the level of seriousness that it had to be. I actually was pretty open to what he had to say, and I was praying that he would say what he needed to say. I thought it would be a lot more lighthearted, but I think he had to come through in a serious way on that. So
That was awesome, man.
Dude, thank
Sorry
you
about
for
that. Yeah,
bro.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks
Yeah.
for telling your story.
Yeah, bro.
Thanks
Yeah.
for being a part of this family and bringing just pretty much everybody you meet that doesn't tell you that's cute. One day. But love you,
Like
dude.
you said, we'd be doing 150 services if everybody was Cody in our
that's
church.
the new goal.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'd never stop.
No.
All right. Well, go Nuggets. Go Avs. Go Detroit. Love you, dude.
Love you,
Love you,
man.
bro.
Love you guys.